Netflix live action adaptations doesn't have much of a reputation. For the most part, they don't do any of the source material any type of justice. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case here with One Piece, but again, they do their own thing with the IP even after Oda needed it to meet his own standards. Plenty of things are changed, mainly due to the total episodes being 8 episodes and for the most part being an hour long. I don't necessarily hate it, but I don't think it hits the same spots. It doesn't hit the same high notes in emotional weight, right? And like, plot development and character development than the anime did when it began all those years ago. But for me, like, the chemistry between the characters, I'm sitting there like, is it there? And half the time I'm there like, I mean, sort of 50-50. I don't really buy it half the time. And that's mainly because of the build up and the events that helps foster their relationship, foster, their whole chemistry just isn't there, or it's just half baked. Not everything is one to one. There are pretty big changes and plenty of moments that would make you question the series, but it does get the core story intact. Monkey D. Luffy gets a bunch of ragtag weirdos to get on his crew with his charisma and his heart of gold, and pretty much they go through the East Blue, just going ahead and just doing shit, right? Honestly, I just think it's a shame. It had potential with so much, but I think it couldn't get the emotional weight, the amazing fights, and the story together in one season without cutting each part to fit into the show. The actors themselves, I had no issue. They did everything they could with what they were given. But do I 100% think that this show was going to be a massive success? No, I don't believe any of that shit. But it could have been something the fans could express as being a fast pass through the East Blue saga. There's good parts and bad parts to the show, but I'll get to that in a moment. But my rating for the first season so far is a 4. It's a 4. I'd give it more points if it would follow the story more clearly, but it felt rushed. And unfortunately, it just didn't need to go ahead and do everything it did to feel rushed, if you know what I mean. Now, before I begin explaining away and enter spoiler territory, this is your last chance to back out before I go ahead and start my spoiler-filled review. Thank you for watching, and see you when you come back after watching the show. If you don't care about spoilers or aren't really interested in watching the show, then let's get started. The series opens up with Logtown, with Roger being placed at his execution pedestal. You know the one, if you watch the show. So, and immediately I see a big change. Fucking Garp is right next to him. He's right there. When someone asked about the treasure, it wasn't even named the One Piece. They don't even say like, "Hey, where's the One Piece?" And they didn't do any of that. He just says, "Hey, where's your treasure, bro? Where's it at?" And Roger here expressed to everyone, "Hey, yo, go ahead and find it." But it didn't feel like a declaration of a new era to me, which sucks. It sucks. The one thing I did like about the whole situation though was, unlike the very first time where we all saw this scene all those years ago, we see important characters in the crowd watching the execution take place. So I thought that was very cool. That wasn't really a detail that they added back then. It's more so like a situation, like details like this that came up like years later, right? Which it was also cool that they implemented that here, which was again, it was pretty nice to see. The best way to really review this show, I don't want to go ahead and go through each and every episode, but I think the best way should be to note the differences between the source material and the show itself. First, I'll really just start with the characters. Alvida pretty much is the same. However, instead of having her crew bring people to her to kill, she actually funny enough, she rides a rope. She goes ahead and does the whole like rope swing to get to the enemy ship, and she plunders it along with her men, which was kind of cool when I saw it, but I sat there like, wait, Alvida doesn't really do that. But it's whatever, right? Alvida's not really a main character, so it doesn't matter. But later on, we see Kobe, and Kobe goes ahead and meets Luffy for the first time. And if you see Kobe like in the beginning, he's a weak little kid with big dreams of being Marine. But the person they have as Kobe, like honestly, Like if they pluck Kobe out of the show and put him in real life, I would definitely believe that was him. A big thing though is that Kobe and Garp are very much a part of the events in here in the show, but in the anime they never were. Kobe was always just there at the Marine base. He was just left there, while Garp was nowhere to be seen at all. One small thing though, they sort of dropped a small development where Kobe stands up to Alvida. I think that's a shame. I liked when Kobe basically stood up to Alvida and said, "You're ugly, you're fat, you're mean, go away, leave me alone." And it was nice to see, but they didn't do it here, which kinda threw me off. Luffy's basically the same, simple as ever after beating Alvida. He wants to go and find a map, and they wound up going to a marine base, right? With Kobe. In the anime around this time, we do get flashbacks to Luffy as a kid, and it's basically the same, but certain events are a bit mixed. We see Luffy trying to cut out his eye and fail, eat the devil fruit, and then get captured by bandits, where Shanks saves him from the bandit and a sea beast, sacrificing his arm, and then later on giving the straw hat to Luffy. Only difference though, in the anime, when the bandits came in, it made a fool of Shanks, which causes Luffy to be angry, and in his frustration, he eats one of Shanks' fruits, which he now knows is a devil fruit, and he ate it out of spite. The fruit, not knowing it was a devil fruit. Although here in the show, it's sort of reversed, and also in the show, it's weird that Luffy sort of gravitates towards the fruit, like it was like a destiny scene, right? So like, you know, it's like one of those things where like, oh my god, it's one of those scenes where he's gonna go ahead and you know, get this specific thing that's part of him and will change him forever and put him on the course to being the person we know now as, you know, the guy in Wano with the with the super cartoon powers, right? But they put a lot of emphasis into this, and I liked it better in the anime where like it was just a nonchalant thing. We didn't really see him really pick it up or anything. He was just eating it, and we can hear the crunch before we could hear the crunching before anybody else realized he was eating the fruit. Also, how Shanks lost his arm was a blink and you'll miss it part. Wasn't really any sacrifice to it. It was more like the CB just came up and nibbled on his arm, sort of like a light headbutt towards towards Shanks. But I didn't really notice his arm was gone until, like, you know, Shanks turned around and his arm was shown to be gone. I'm like, wait, what? Like, it's different in the show than the anime where the CBs just came in at high speed and just took the arm while, you know, Shanks takes Luffy towards the side, I guess. And here they're just on the ship and, like, you know, the CBs just takes it. And I'm like, oh, okay. When Nami is introduced, she's essentially the same. Well, sort of. I don't know why, but she's the worst thief ever here. Throughout the anime, she was damn near undetectable, but for the sake of the plot, she fails to actually succeed stealing, because they need her to meet Luffy and Zoro and proceed to go ahead and get caught, you know, in the act of going ahead and like, you know, being in an espionage sort of like mission or something like that, right? She for some reason they just completely just sideline her whole thief aspect. She says she's a thief, but we don't really see anything thief worthy, you know. Nami's backstory is essentially the same. Arlong comes along and, you know, basically just tells everyone to pay up, and then, you know, her mom didn't have enough money for everybody, so she sacrificed herself, you know, for the 50,000 berries, I think it was 50,000 berries for one child and 100,000 berries for an adult. And, you know, she only had 100,000 berries, so she sacrificed herself for Nami and her sister, which was, you know, it's always like a tense moment here. But normally all the backstories in this show are pretty good. They're pretty one-to-one. And, you know, later on she becomes a member of the Arlong Pirates to save enough money to free the village. When Zoro gets his own backstory shown, I'm glad they didn't explain Kuina dying, because like it would have been hard for me to explain everything to how she just dies from falling down some stairs in the anime. I don't know why this path of death for Kuina was stairs. I guess they didn't have Truck-kun, so they had Stair-kun. I don't know. Zoro in the flashbacks, though, is pretty damn old compared to the anime, but the results are the same. Even though later on in the fight with Mihawk, the events were the same, but the impact wasn't really there. Like they were fighting, but instead of fighting with swords, it felt like they were just fighting with they were fighting with like the inflatable tubes that you would use for swimming. It didn't really matter all that much. You didn't feel any impact from their fighting. When Luffy and Kobe reaches the military island with Morgan as the lead, the storyline with Morgan being a fucking bastard and a tyrant, that all that shit, it was entirely dropped. Morgan here isn't outright shown to be a bastard, but unlike the anime, although he is firm when telling Zoro he either joins the Marines or do 7 days in the yard. The plot of this episode basically focused on getting a map, but it's a Grand Line map that is apparently ultra rare, which makes no fucking sense since most of the world of One Piece is water, so I don't know why there needs to be like such emphasis on the maps to go to the Grand Line when I'm pretty sure most maps would be needed everywhere to know where you are. But I guess, whatever, right? The end of the Morgan storyline shows with the trio fighting Marines and winning over Morgan, like, all together. Like, Luffy didn't, like, go ahead and beat his ass, right? It was, like, a group effort, mainly, like, Zoro and Luffy. And they escape without Kobe, and that's honestly really it for, like, I think that's the first episode, like, end of the second episode, I think. When they reach Buggy, it's honestly nothing like the anime. Yeah, they get captured, but everything was more theatrical. More so, but, like, theatrical in the Buggy way. Buggy here was actually bearable and entertaining to watch. Like his banter and everything he was talking about, it was actually like, you know, pretty interesting, and you know, him annoying everybody and essentially like forcing an entire town to be his audience. It's very in character for Buggy. He's very in character. I do feel like they try to get like a sort of Joker aspect to Buggy, but like it's whatever, right? Although his main crew, besides one guy, is shown, like there's only one guy that I recognize from the anime that shows up here, and apparently he has some type of grudge against Zoro for some reason, for killing his brother and taking his head and all this. I'm sitting here like that would be cool to see as a flashback, but no, we don't get any of that. But at the same time, they did Buggy's powers pretty fucking good. I actually liked the way they represented his powers with him having the chop fruit. They defeated him in the same way too, by grabbing a lot of his like floating parts and putting it somewhere else. And it was pretty funny to see Buggy just being a head, 2 hands, and 2 feet. It actually made me laugh out loud because of how stupid it looked. And that was its purpose, to be fucking stupid. But honestly, instead of just being there for this part of like, you know, the saga of the East Blue, you know, he does show up later in the season due to Arlong coming in and taking his head to identify Luffy later. And the gang, and you know, the gang reaches Usopp's island. Usopp is basically the same. His backstory the same. His mom is sick, dies, dad goes ahead and joins Shanks, whatever, right? Although I don't remember Kaya having cat pirate servants besides Kuro. I could be misremembering because I didn't really care about this part in the show or really the anime. Like I just didn't really care for it. Like that whole setting was bullshit to me. I didn't really care. There wasn't really no setting for this besides Kaya's mansion. Kuro wanted the property transferred to him, I guess, and they even kill Mary. Mary's alive in the anime, so I'm sitting here like, what the fuck? What's going on here? Why is Mary dead? Why is the guy with the with the horns and shit dead when he's supposed to be like the one that takes care of Kaya when Usopp is gone? So a bit of an odd choice. The poisoning of Kaya is there, but all the medicine was fucking blue. It was goofy ass blue. Like, how do I explain this? What's the best way to explain this? Have you guys ever watched Hook? Right? You guys remember that scene when all the boys are like eating food and like, you know, Robin Williams as Peter couldn't see it, but he imagined it finally, and you know, all the food was pretty much just like cream and icing, and you know, they all had goofy like crazy ass colors. That was this with the crazy ass blue color that no one thought was fucking weird. Astounds me. Let me get back to the to the show. Arlong is pretty much the big bad of the show. He is running things. He was running the waters like he owns the place. And he shows up at Buggy's place. He shows up at Barati's as well. In the live action show, they're trying to put together characters in the plot in multiple different places to sort of like get these characters together. Hell, even Garp asked Mihawk to find Luffy for him, which made me head scratch considering like the power difference here is fucking crazy. But this led to Zoro like, you know, asking Mihawk to a duel, and he lost. Mihawk for some reason was pretty talkative, you know, just talking a little bit of shit, which kind of threw me off, but it's whatever, right? But the events were pretty much the same. But after meeting Luffy, Mihawk just says, "Fuck it, I'll leave. You're interesting. I'm gonna see you grow." Which I don't know. I honestly don't know if Mihawk in the anime would actually do this, but at the same time, Mihawk does what Mihawk wants, so he might have. Oh yeah, well, the biggest thing, Krieg doesn't even show up here since Mihawk actually killed his ass in the show, which was insanely crazy to me because they cut out a big ass fight in the East Blue Saga. So I'm just sitting here like, so he's just dead. So he's just dead. I will say a lot of the backstories here are pretty spot on. I definitely liked Sanji's backstory. I always liked Sanji's backstory. I felt was pretty spot on. Even his banter with Zeph was pretty good. Like them talking shit to each other made me actually laugh. In the anime, Nami takes their ship and betrays them. Betrays Luffy, betrays everybody in the crew, and you know, goes off to go see Arlong and give him the map, the money, whatever, right? In the show, she stays. She actually does stay. And she sees the fight with Zoro and Mihawk and tries to help Zoro. But when Arlong came along, she decides to leave with him due to plot reasons, of course. Luffy took the head of Buggy during all the chaos, during when he was fighting Arlong, which leads them to Nami's town. For some reason, I don't know if Arlong, you know, had like an extra ear that that Buggy placed on him or something, but I don't know. But after witnessing everything here, I've determined that towards like episode 6 to 8, they decided to rush things along. They really did. Now that I think about it, the two guys that were in the anime, the two guys who called Zoro brother, never appeared. Now that I think about it, nothing was really done by the crew until Nami got her treasure stolen. Now that I think about it, the two guys who were in the anime, the two guys who called Zoro brother and followed them around and for a brief period of time, right? They never appeared. They never came to be. Which after I think about it, I think that's for the best because they would have added more runtime and yeah, whatever, right? But as the crew is here on Nami's island and in her village, they don't really do shit until Nami got her treasure stolen by corrupted Marines and asked Luffy for help. But the way she asked for help wasn't as impactful, I'd say, as the anime. I don't think a lot of these scenes could have been impactful as the anime due to, of course, anime reasons, expressive reasons, right? But it didn't really felt like anything powerful or anything towards that direction for me. When the crew storms Arlong Park, there wasn't any climactic battles besides Luffy and Arlong. No ripping of Zoro's bandages, my favorite part by the way, or Luffy being stuck in the water, neck down. None of that. Like, they didn't have any of that. Luffy did destroy the map room and the main building, although by destroying the pillars, and that's honestly it. I don't even think... No, we didn't even see Arlong's body. We just saw Luffy just get out of the rubble and kind of like, yeah, I won. And he skipped to the party. Before I go any further, I gotta talk about Garp. He has been tracking Luffy down this entire fucking time. Cleaning up his messes, introducing Kobe and Helmeppo to scenes they never were in the anime at all. During the party, he does crash it and fights Luffy, which, if we're gonna be honest, Luffy wouldn't even have a fucking chance against Garp. So Garp goes ahead and tests Luffy's decision to be a pirate, which I guess Luffy wins? Question mark? It's really head scratching why they added Garp. I thought he was gonna, like, you know, hear about Luffy's exploits and adventures and smile like a fool after getting pretty pissed off. There are a few moments where Garp is like screaming in anger like a fucking psychopath and then laughing even crazy like he's fucking bipolar. After which scares the shit out of poor Kobe. Poor Kobe. Poor Kobe. He was just a rat, honestly. Now that I think about it, he was like always like listening in to Garp's like discussions and shit. Now that I think about it, he was like a little bit of a rat here. But Garp lets Luffy and everyone go after taking in the Arlong pirates. After all that, they set sail to the Grand Line. They put their feet on the barrel. They go ahead and declare their dreams, and that's honestly the end. And we see Smoker sort of like put out his cigarette on on Luffy's bounty, which honestly is pretty 1-to-1 with the anime. I'll give them that. It's pretty 1-to-1. It actually made me laugh to see Usopp's head in the background. Oh yeah, and also at the very end, Mihawk went to Shanks and showed him Luffy's bounty, which the red-haired pirates were all happy about to see. What's good about the show is that it definitely has One Piece's wackiness. The characters, for the most part, feel genuine, and the backstories are almost 1-to-1. Even the Sea Beast in Luffy's backstory looks damn near the same. Just all CGI'd and crap, right? I definitely do wish the show had closer to 12 to 13 episodes, so these mini adventures felt more full, better to watch, and just fulfilling, you know? The bad parts of the show primarily stem from the lack of impact or small storylines hone in on. Like I said before, Krieg was killed. The Morgan storyline was pretty much gutted. And Garp pretty much arrested him for corruption charges that we don't really see. We kind of hear about how Morgan would go to Barati to eat sometimes, but never bring Helmeppo. And the Buggy fight was more of a random encounter, like you were forced into like a theater just to watch and just be there and have it be very cringe. I get what they're trying to do, mixing things up, but everything they did, mainly with Garp chasing them and all along having more presence in the show, it didn't really sit right with me with how the story was. It just didn't hit for me, right? The lack of actual meaningful fights made it lackluster, lack of much blood or impact with the combat either. Nothing really screams serious in any situation. I did like Buggy's theatrics though. His voice wasn't like scratching a chalkboard to me. Helmeppo was a little bastard, and for the love of God, I wasn't expecting to see Helmeppo ass cheeks. That threw me way the fuck off guard. There's gonna be weirdos out there, definitely, who are gonna be upset at the race changes with certain characters. Not the main cast, but certain people, right? But honestly, it doesn't really matter. Most of these characters don't even really appear in the main show anyway, so who the fuck cares? Overall, I think the series should be summarized as One Piece Light. One Piece, but it's store-bought, but not even from the original store. This version of One Piece isn't crap at all. I'm sure kids will love it. The lack of blood really helps with that. I'm sticking with my rating of 4 for an overall view of One Piece. If it's like, a rating for kids, for a kids version, I'd say it's 6. It's pretty good for kids to get introduced into the show if they don't have access for some fucking reason to the actual, animated show. But if this is the version Oda allowed, imagine the version that Netflix wanted to air before his involvement. That just makes me shudder inside. Thank you guys for listening to my review. It means a lot to me. By the way, if you're a writer, artist, or even just someone who likes to read and just hang out in Discord, I'm opening up a Discord for everyone to share knowledge, ideas, and just overall just help each other. It will be in the description below. Subscribe, like the video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and stay healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically. Later, guys.